Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Municipality of Anchorage Board of Adjustment meeting of February the 9th, 2024, a regularly scheduled meeting. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Chair Guchow?
Here.
Member Probst?
Here.
Member Rose?
Present.
Thank you. I should also mention that our counsel, Courtney Kitchen, is here, as is Dean Gates, the Assembly Counsel, and the clerk is Jasmine Akers, and Dean Gates' legal assistant, Brandy Heasley, is also here. And there are various people on the telephone, at least two people on the telephone. Anyway, would we please look at the agenda and take a look and see if there are any additions, deletions, changes necessary to the agenda for today's meeting?
Mr. Chair, I move to approve the agenda.
Okay, has been moved and seconded
Seconded.
by Mr. Probst. Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, that motion is unanimously approved. Then we go to the minutes of the January 26th meeting. You have had a chance to review the draft, I hope. Do I hear a motion to approve the minutes? Mr. Probst?
So moved?
Thank you.
I'll second.
And moved and seconded to approve the minutes. Are there any additions, deletions, changes to the minutes that you can see? Jasmine has tried very well to capture what was discussed at that meeting and made several changes. One of them was a few minutes ago, as I recall.
Yes,
Okay.
it was.
Anyway, we all have the revised version that Jasmine sent around just a little while ago. If there is no further discussion, no objection, the motion is approved unanimously. We are zipping right along. Today's meeting basically is concerns the findings of fact, conclusions of law, and decision of what was discussed at the previous meeting, and that is BOA Appeal number 2023-01, Planning Board case number S12713, Mill Subdivision Tracts A, B, and C.
Yes, could I take
Mr.
a moment to ask
Gates.
for a little moment of privilege to speak about something
Yes,
before we get to this
Of
business?
course, of
Just 2
course.
minutes or so.
Go ahead.
Thank you. I realize today is Chair Chow's last meeting as Chair of the Board of Adjustment and as a member of the board. And I just thought it important to acknowledge and recognize your distinguished service for the Board of Adjustment. And it's a voluntary work, and it's not easy, it's complicated, and it's much appreciated. And so I recognize that you were appointed in 2006 and sat since 2007, and you've been chair on the board since 2010. Reappointed, I guess, like 5 times, and it's just important that we recognize your service, and that I want to express on behalf of the municipality, if I could, our gratitude for that. And we did have a few small
good Lord.
tokens of our appreciation.
Well, isn't that nice?
Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, there are things in there. Oh, there are pins in there.
We
Well,
have
so
a certificate
thank
to
you
it, just
so
didn't
much
get
for
here on time.
Well, thank you. I'm very appreciative. I was going to say something at the end, where it talks about member participation. Thank you for reminding me how long I've served on the board. It seems like a lifetime to me. You know that I was previously involved in the zoning board of appeal, and that I was a member of for 14 years. So I have served on 2 boards for a considerable length of time. There is something to be said for longevity. On the other hand, there's also something to be said for finally calling it off. And I have reached the age where I need to simply say, I have done my job. And I know it's been appreciated and I've enjoyed it, and it is time to move on after today. Okay, so thank you very much. I'm very
You
appreciative.
had a certificate of appreciation, but it didn't.
We didn't. We ordered it.
That's
We'll mail
okay.
it.
Given for allowing me that moment here at the meeting.
Well, thank you. So that has nothing to do with the appeal.
I'm going to join from my office.
All right, you are excused. Thank you. All right. After this somewhat unscheduled presentation, I will cherish the mug. Oh, isn't that nice? Anyway, let's get back to the business at hand, and that concerns BOA Appeal Number 2023-01 regarding the Planning Board Case Number S12713 Mill Subdivision Tracts A, B, and C. And the purpose for our meeting today is to consider draft minutes, draft findings, conclusions, and the decision regarding the appeal that we considered at the meeting of January 26. So in order to bring this to the fore, I would invite a motion to approve the board's findings, conclusions, and decisions that we have in front of us in draft form.
I'll move.
And Mr. Probst moves and Mr. Rose seconds the motion. Before we get into a discussion of this, are there any formal additions, deletions, or changes that should be made before we discuss details?
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Rose.
I do have one thought, and I don't know whether it's appropriate to put it in here or just somewhere else in the record. After our meeting last, we had received the board had received a couple of emails from counsel from both the parties. I'd like the record to reflect that those emails didn't influence either our decision or these findings at all. I think you and our counsel shut that down pretty quickly, and it came obviously after the meeting that we had. But I do think it's appropriate to at least mention it and say that it's not part of our decision making at all.
Ms. Kitchen, my recollection is that it was actually before, wasn't it?
Well, there was an opposition made at the meeting on January 26th, but then we received an email after the meeting,
Okay.
and it went to you and I and all the board members.
And what did it concern? Just,
It raised an opposition to notice and asked for relief, and that's when Dean Gates and I drafted an email and sent it to the parties only, the councils, that said, we will address procedural issues in the decision, but if there is any relief of any kind requested, there has to be a motion filed. And we requested a motion, we suggested motions be filed before this meeting. No motion has been filed.
all right. And in looking at the draft minutes, the procedural issue was addressed, was it not?
We did include in the findings that notice of the Board of Adjustments hearing was served on the parties in compliance with municipal code.
Okay, all right. Mr. Rose, does that answer your concern?
I think it does, and I think we've put it on the record, and I think that's sufficiently established.
All right. Mr. Probst, you made the motion to approve the draft findings, conclusions, and decisions. First of all, would you speak to your motion, please?
Yes. As you know, I'm still fairly new on this board, but as I read through the document that I received earlier this week, it seemed to accurately reflect what we had agreed to at the last meeting, laid out in a very logical manner. So I don't have any dispute with it or additions or subtractions from it.
And do you intend to vote in favor of the motion?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Mr. Rose?
I also had a chance to review it last night, and I agree with my colleague here that it looks to match up with the decision that we made last meeting. So I intend to vote in favor of the motion.
Well, thank you. I can tell you that Ms. Kitchen and I spent many phone calls dealing
Huh.
with the draft minutes, and it looks considerably different from her first version. In the typical good show fashion, it has been shortened significantly, I can tell you. I have one change that I would propose, and that concerns the last 4 words on page 4. It is so ordered, I'm not sure that is necessary, since we have already a decision that is listed, that starts on page 3 and goes to page 4. Ms. Kitchen, you are the one who added this. What's your thought? Do we really need it?
No, I don't think we need it, particularly because after that it says adopted by the Board of Adjustment.
Yes, I agree. So, short of making a motion to amend, is it agreeable with you, Mr. Probst? You are the maker of the motion that we strike the words, "It is so ordered" at the end of page 4. And that we approve, or that we vote on your motion subject to the deletion of those 4 words.
Yes, it's fine with me, but what is the reasoning? A little bit behind it.
There isn't, the reasoning is basically that the heading is decision. That's the third. Remember, we have findings, we have conclusions, and we have a decision.
Right.
So it's no longer necessary, and it says at the end, those 3 subject matters were adopted. So it is
So it's
superfluous.
redundant. So-
Yes, it's
Okay.
redundant. Thank you, that's the word I was looking for. All right, do we have any further discussion, Mr. Rose?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just the draft that I'm looking at here, it looks like there's just a numbering error, which is just looks purely typographical.
Where do you
So
see that?
starting in conclusions, it looks like the paragraphs are numbered 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 10. And then in decision, it says 1, and then the next one numbered is 5. At least in this copy.
No,
Something must have been mine. The numbering is sequential.
so is mine.
I wonder.
Let me
Yeah.
look and see if it's...
You want me to start-
Maybe I
let's
was
start
sent
at
an
the top.
earlier version or something.
That's entirely possible.
4,
Yeah.
5, 6, 7, 8.
I was wondering about that too, Michael.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Well, that's on the next page. Well, so your page break is right before conclusions, right?
5, 6.
If you
What do
scroll,
you-
if you scroll up to 9 here,
Yeah.
your page break is right there.
Conclusions.
Where are you at?
I want to make sure it's the same one.
Yeah. Omitting the faulty letter.
Are you talking about footnotes?
No,
No.
Mr. Chair, and I'll hand you the copy I have here. So you'll see.
The planning board's finding public code.
Look at that.
Oh.
Yeah,
paragraph
that's
number.
funny. I
Are
wonder
you
if it's
looking at
because
a previous version?
I don't think it's a previous version. I wonder if you have a you don't have a Mac, if you have a PC.
Yeah, it's my copy, and yes, I do have a PC.
I wonder if the PC, sometimes formatting can be funny with PCs and Macs, but I will triple check, but I'm pretty sure everyone got the
real quick.
same.
Yeah,
I must tell
And
you, my
my-
version, what you just showed me as paragraph 10 is paragraph 5 on my version.
Right,
So I hope we're not talking about different
right.
versions.
And maybe
Right.
we could just real quick scan.
Other
just
than
look
the
to see if it
numbers,
looks the same.
is the content the same?
Yeah, let me see. Notice board judgment.
The font's different.
Yeah, there's
that could fix that. Like,
something.
look at that first line.
Yeah, and there's something like this one. I had a big draft. There's some sort of formatting that looks like got
Okay.
a little bit changed between the version I sent
Yep.
you guys, and maybe
Yep.
what I'll do in the future is send PDFs. Maybe that'll be better than a Word version. I'll send PDF and a Word version.
Okay.
Yeah,
Notice of
I'm
the
just scanning
board
through
just
the text.
Served on compliance with Article 7. Mandate by code.
Two's the same.
Policy.
Three's the same. At least there.
4.
So there should be 9
It's the same.
findings,
Five's the same.
5 conclusions, and 6 decisions
Six is the same.
paragraphs.
Yeah.
Yep, we're just scanning. I just want to scan through it. That's all right, Mr. Chair. Just make sure the version I was
Okay.
looking at is the same one that you're looking at. Those are all fine.
Permitting. I'm sure because this was the last change Barron and I made, and that was the final adding that.
Yeah.
So I bet
yeah,
it's
I'm,
all.
I'm pretty sure you're right. It's just a formatting between versions. We're just about at the end here, Mr. Chair.
Sure.
Yeah, that looks good.
It's funny.
Okay,
All right. Are we
we're good.
I'll make
It's
sure to
the
send
same.
a
The only
PDF.
difference
Okay,
next
is the
time.
numbering. So
okay? Are we all singing of the same sheet of music?
I believe so, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Is there any further discussions regarding the draft findings, conclusions, and decision? Ms. Kitchen, is there anything, have you resolved the confusion that apparently existed over the numbering of this?
Yes, and I just wanted to make sure that the board members understand. Barron and I went through great lengths on decision number 6, the last one,
Yeah.
about because this matter is being remanded to the plating board, it's not a final decision
Right.
until the plating board issues a decision on remand, and there's not been an appeal of that decision to the board, and then this entire decision becomes a final decision that can be appealed to the Superior Court. I wanted to make sure that that was understood by everybody. It's a little, how it's worded in code is a little confusing.
That paragraph, and you're talking about paragraph 6 of the decision, is a paragraph that's mandated by code.
Right.
And basically, the purpose is to advise the parties of the appeal rights and where it goes if it's not appealed. And so that's the reason for that paragraph. And I can tell you that virtually every decision that I've been involved in for the last so many years at this point has included that paragraph because it is a requirement. If we don't put that in, there is a real flaw to the decision. So we need to be sure that that's there. Okay, any further discussion regarding the draft minutes? If not, Madam Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Member Probst.
Aye.
Member Rose.
Aye.
Chair Guchow.
Aye. So the motion is approved, and the findings of fact, conclusions of law, decisions that provide for my signature as the chair of the board. Here's the way this will work. Courtney Kitchen, our counsel, will, in a few minutes, run off the final version that deletes the words draft on each of the 4 pages and deletes the last 4 words following paragraph 6, and then I will sign it and I will stay here. So it will be dated today, and hopefully the clerk can distribute this today. Can you? Okay. And I know that at least Mr. Meacham is anxious to see this. So be sure that you serve it on the parties, and that is both Mr. Meacham and Becky Lipsum. Okay?
Okay.
If you would, please. All right. We then hustle right to the next item. On the business, there is no old business. Member comments. Mr. Rose, any comments you wish to make?
On today.
Okay, Mr. Probst.
I'm just nervous about how we're going to proceed without you as our lead here. But you don't have to worry about that.
No, I will be drinking a glass of wine. That brings me to some comments that I want to make. You have heard, and Dean Gates very kindly commented on my long tenure here on the board. I will miss it. It has been an interesting, I wanted to say intellectual experience, that's part of it, but it's really interesting to be part of a land use planning process in this municipality that is totally non-political. And I want to stress the non-political aspect of it. We are here because we like to serve and we feel we can contribute. And I certainly have felt that, very much so. And so after all these years, I'm saying goodbye, and I had a good time. And in a way, I will miss it. But there's a time for all of us to retire. My time has come. So, any audience participation? Is there anybody who wishes to say anything that does not concern this particular case that we just discussed? Nobody? Ms. Kitchen.
I just want to reiterate what everybody has said here. It's been such a pleasure to work with you, Chair Gutschau, and this board will really miss you. You really put in a lot of time and thought to every matter that comes before this board, and it's been a real pleasure to work with you.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. In terms of Carl's concern, I would anticipate that the next meeting will be the whole board as it exists, and that includes Nancy Pease, who apparently was confirmed, wasn't she? By the Assembly?
On Tuesday.
On Tuesday, okay, all right. She was, she put in for a renewal of her term, and the administration agreed with that. And under the procedures we have, the Assembly needs to approve it, and that's going to happen on Tuesday. So, considering that there are two, perhaps only one further appeals in the pipeline, my thought would be that the full board needs to meet here very quickly. And your first job will be to decide on a chair at that point. So I'm not going to talk about that. It's up to you, but good luck. And thank you very much for all your thoughts and for your participation. And seeing no audience participation, I think we are adjourned.